Hi, friends. I'm Phoebe.
I'm Keiara.
This is the I Don't Want to Make This Too Long podcast.
The podcast for girlies who like to gossip via 20-minute voice messages to their besties.
That was the one.
Oh, that felt like the one, but we can do it.
You know what? If it's the one, it's the one.
I mean, we could do it again.
You know
I
what?
felt myself stumbling, but I got through it.
We found our footing. We got there.
Oh my God. I think that
was the
authentic.
One. All right. Well,
yeah.
All right,
I
I liked it. Okay. Well,
here we are.
we're here
We're back.
again.
We're here again.
We're back and we're better.
We are better than ever. We had to take some time to get ourselves together. Well, that's not even it. We just had a lot going on.
Yeah, we just had to
Our
get it together.
schedules were just not scheduling.
No, the schedules were not scheduling, but we are back and we're here and we're ready to talk about some interesting things today.
Oh, yes. Yes. So, as we are both avid readers, okay, if you didn't know already.
Now you know.
Yeah, we read a lot. And we have recently delved into the world of spicy books.
And spicy book talk.
Yeah.
Spicy book talk.
Oh, yes. Spicy book talk is a crazy place, I gotta say.
Yeah, we're about to get into it, but spicy book talk is a lawless land, and there are some solid recs and some questionable pieces of literature, if we can call it that. If we could call it literature, I guess.
And you know what? I want to read it all. I really do.
And we will.
And we will.
If there's one thing about us, we will read them all.
We'll read them all. And it's funny because I feel like there was a time where adult books or romance books were not really, it was like a taboo thing. Like it wasn't really, not taboo in a sense that they weren't being made. Like there's always been rows of romance books. In
like a whole
every
enclave in the Barnes and Noble.
And every small local bookshop always had a big romance section. Even the last bookstore the last bookstore.
And there's bookstores dedicated to romance books. Shout out The Ripped Bodice.
Yes.
All romance books.
Favorite place in the world, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's never been a shortage of romance books. I just feel like a lot of people weren't really talking about it as much, but now
and
it's gone mainstream.
And the stigma too. I feel like there wasn't even, to our knowledge anyways, there wasn't necessarily spicy books. It was always a romance book. The whole vibe, the cover art, everything about it was a romance book. Whereas now, you're seeing more and more stories that are more modern that have a spicy element to them or whatever it may be. But I feel like the stigma surrounding romance books or spicy books is gone. It's gone. Everyone and their mothers has read A Court of Thorns and Roses, which you can add me to that list. I just read it. And everyone has some form of spicy book on their bookshelf, on their TBR list, or
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's gotten more extreme over the years, I find.
Yeah.
To say the least. Again, that's not to say that these certain types of stories haven't been around, but we're seeing more people talking about fucking dragons and doors. Yeah, you heard me right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You heard me right. There is a spicy book about a woman who fucks
a door.
And it's not a metaphor. I'm not being cheeky. She literally
has sex with the door.
With the door.
It's funny too, because there are such taboo books out there, and there's tropes that, yes, they're taboo, but they're almost popular, where it's the step sibling, whatever.
Yeah.
I've read, I did not finish it. I'm going to try it again. There's a book about a priest. There's shape-shifting animal fairy.
You did not finish Priest?
I did not finish Priest.
Oh.
I think I got 30 pages in and I was like, I'm not in.
It wasn't it?
I wasn't in the mood. I don't think. It was a lot. Okay. But there's these taboos that are still kind of taboo or whatever, but they're popular. And like you just said, now we're getting just fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And we're talking about doors. We're talking about inanimate objects. I'm good.
I've heard some crazy things. Like,
Yeah.
not even just that, but I feel like it's more so like the self-published authors that are getting away with like these crazy concepts for spicy books. And I don't know, it's funny. Like, you want to read them just because they're so unbelievable, but at the same time, it's like, do I want to traumatize myself with that? I don't know. Maybe.
Right. I feel like we're about to get into it, but with the series that we're about to talk about today, I've accidentally traumatized myself with some of the subject matter, which we'll get into. But yes, I can attest to the fact that even the very popular spicy books on Spicy Book Talk have some troubling, at the very least,
subject matter.
Or plot devices or events in which transpire.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna jump right in.
Yeah. And so with that being said, I had not read a spicy book of any kind, I don't think, since like the first time I read one in high school. It was like an iPhone library app book.
Okay.
It was a vampire book, and it was pretty spicy.
Oh shit, okay.
But now, as we've gotten into it as grown-ups, we jumped in with none other than Katee Roberts.
The Wicked Villains series.
If you're not familiar, get familiar, because it's definitely, I feel like if you're just getting into spicy romance books, I feel like this is a good place to start. Just because it's like the books are not too big.
No.
You can get through them pretty quickly. And there's like a story throughout the book that kind of, or throughout all of the books that just intertwine. So it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
Fun to read.
It's funny too, because like what you just said, like you'd had an experience reading spicy books. I'm pretty sure these are like 100% my first spicy books, because while I've read books that have like, obviously that have like sex scenes in them, or like a romance element, or like, I mean, we've talked about it already, but like the Twilights, the fucking Vampire Academy books, like I've read a lot of books that hint at sex happening or are very like PG.
Oh yeah.
These books, this was the first time I've read a spicy book where like, I mean, the very first book in this series, which we're going to get into, but like, I think the first page, sex is already happening. And I was like, oh, okay.
Oh shit. It's very abrupt, but you know, they put some normal plot things in between.
Yes. So I guess like, you know, if you're not familiar, we'll give you an overview. Yeah. The Wicked Villains series, as we mentioned, is written by Katee Roberts, and it's a series of 6 books, I believe. It's 6 books, and they're all based on Disney villains, and the protagonists, antagonists of these Disney movies. How would you describe these? I mean, like, yes, they're about these Disney villains, and they are spicy, so hence there are sex scenes in them. But besides, like, the twist of the antagonist and the protagonist princess ending up instead of the prince, like how would you describe this series?
I would definitely describe all of these books as what the girlies called like the mob romance. Now personally, I've never read like that mob-esque, like, you know, I don't even know what, like, I don't want to say drug dealer, like, you know, like the kingpin who, like, you know, takes like the little innocent, like it's basically whatever you qualify like that kind of mob type romance. Like the whole premise of these books is that there is a large territory dispute. That's like one of the main like non-sexual plots, is there's like this territory dispute between people in like the lower side of town and like the upper side of town, or whatever you want to call it. And then like, I think it might be literally called Olympus. I think
it is. I think it's like, called Olympus.
There's Olympus. There's like another place. I don't remember what it's called. Like there's these different territories where you have like a ruler for each, and like Hades is one of the rulers of like, you know, the lower city that like nobody wants to go to, even though it's a perfectly fine city. It's like that whole like, you know, oh, we don't go over there because it's full of like poor people and thieves, but it's actually just like lower class people. And then you have Zeus, who of course, the big baddie, or I think it's Zeus, or maybe it's someone else. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else.
Well, Zeus is like, he's one of the overarching baddies, but like, like
he's not really mentioned. He's not like a main player, is he?
No, he's only in the Learn My Lesson book, but like each area is kind of ruled by
someone.
In the Disney movies, the villain, but in these they're kind of swapped to where they are the good guy, I guess, or like they, to your point, like are like the mob-esque ruler of this territory.
Yeah, they're like the mayors of the town, or whatever you want, like the royal families, so to speak, or whatever. And they all kind of, I don't know what word to use, like congregate, or like they all like meet at this nightclub that I think is owned by Hades.
Yes, that's Hades. Realm.
That's where people come to do all their business, whatever that business may be. Wink, wink.
Right.
That's where everyone comes to discuss their, you know, territory business, where they come to like.
It's a neutral ground.
It's a neutral. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like their neutral ground where people can come and like, you know, talk business, but also do
things,
do business, if you know what I mean. So yeah, like it is kind of, like I said, like that kind of mob romance type of situation.
I think that's the perfect way to describe it, because I think it took me a while to understand that these books take place in reality. Like it took me a long time to recognize that there's no like magical powers, no mystical powers going on. Like it's to your exact point, like a mob retelling of Disney royal families, and like there's no magic, there's none of that. It's like each of these books take place in a different territory with a different ruler, and there's some kind of trade treaty-esque thing happening with the exchange of like people making deals. Like,
They have guns and shit like this. They're not using lightning bolts and, and magical, you know, little sparks coming out of their fingers or whatever.
Captain Hook is fucking moving arms. He's moving weapons, all right, in this book. Like he means business.
I have to read that one. I read that one.
I'm gonna get into it, but that one, you know what?
With that being said, we gotta get now this seems like the perfect time to get into our favorites and least favorites from the series. What
we are laying down, kicking our feet, giggling. You know what? This is a side note before we get into it, but I've really had to wrestle at multiple points in my life that whole like I'm not like other girls thing. And my final boss in finally like unlearning that was accepting that romance/spicy books are fucking fun. Like finally I was like, you know what? Books don't have to be about 20-something-year-old girls in New York City hating their life and like being miserable. I have enough of that on my own.
In this our actual lives.
Good, dude.
It's fun. Yeah,
they're fun.
That's a whole other, because same, like there's certain aspects of life where I'm like, okay, I need to let go of this idea of the whole I'm not like other girls thing. I've never actually been that way with a lot of things, but there are some aspects of life where I'm like, okay, let me let this go.
Right.
And I feel like we should be proud of like how far we've come with, because some women never unlearn it.
No.
And I feel like we unlearned it at the perfect time where we're like getting more into all things, like the fields we work in, politics, whatever the case may be. Like now is the time to learn to be a girl's girl and just accept that, you know, we're all into the same things and different things all at once. It's okay to like the color pink and like spicy romance books and do whatever the fuck you want.
And that doesn't make you any less like of an individual or interesting or whatever. Like,
exactly.
So I just wanted to throw that in there because trust me, it took me a minute to get into these because... So should we start with our least favorite and then our favorites, or should we do our favorites first since we're already in such a like mood? We're in a mood.
You know what? Yeah, let's do our favorites first. Which one was your favorite?
Okay, so my favorite is, let me see. Okay, I believe it's the third one in the series. It's A Worthy Opponent.
Okay.
This is the retelling of Peter Pan. So this is when Tinkerbell and Captain Hook are a thing, and Peter Pan is depicted as like the crazy horrible rival mob boss ex-boyfriend.
Oh.
Yes. This book,
Okay, I haven't read either of those.
this one is really, really good. This is my favorite because it's the most realistic as far as like a relationship forming.
Yeah.
It's very enemies to lovers, which like, hi, I love that.
Yeah.
But it's enemies to lovers, but also like the backstory of Peter Pan and Tinkerbell is the most realistic, where I feel like in some of these other ones, it's like, now what are you talking about? That's just crazy.
Yeah.
So that is my favorite one.
Okay.
Very, very good.
Yeah. Well,
What is your favorite one?
my favorite one currently, since I see I haven't even read the rest, is The Beast.
This is a good one too.
I loved this one. Well, because first of all, and the irony is that, well, I don't even know if you can call it irony, but my favorite Disney movie is Beauty and the Beast. If you know me, you know that that's my favorite Disney movie because I've always identified with Belle. I love Beauty and the Beast. That's my favorite, like, musical movie, whatever. Like, it's my favorite.
Right.
So I kind of had certain expectations to what this book would be and whether or not I would think it was good, and it was good. Like the way that they depict Gaston and the Beast is very interesting, and like neither of them are bad necessarily. Like
Yeah, I feel like this is one of the only ones that doesn't have like a antagonist in the other, like in the way that the other ones do. Like there's no one
that's like, oh, he's like outwardly evil and the other one's outwardly good. Like they both, their common goal is to love on and like protect this woman, and I'm kind of into that. Like,
I want a boyfriend.
and I want the boyfriends
to be boyfriends.
Like she literally has 2 boyfriends, and I'm not mad about it.
She girl bossed that.
She did. She gatekeep girl
Gaslight,
girl all that shit.
all that.
All that shit.
She did all those.
She did, and you know what? Good for her.
And she slayed.
And she slayed. Okay.
This is my second favorite one. I think A Worthy Opponent and The Beast are tied for my favorites.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a side note too, like I know we already mentioned it, but like while these books do all live in the same universe, they also live on their own too. So like I recommend reading these in order. There's no like real reason why, just like they make brief references to the books in the past. And I feel like they don't talk about characters, maybe except for like Aurora. They don't talk about characters that are coming up. They only really reference books in the past. So I really like that you can read them standalone, but it's kind of like a different experience to read them all in order and like read all of them. It like completes the universe, I guess, for lack of a better word. But
yeah,
I love The Beast.
Yeah, that one was really good.
Yeah. So in the series too, it goes, the third one is A Worthy Opponent, and then the fourth one is The Beast. So like the best books are like smack in the middle of the series, which I think is so funny.
I feel like the first couple of books were like she was dipping her feet in.
Yeah.
You know, as far as storytelling, and the dialogue, because Lord knows we can have an entire episode about how bad dialogue is in books, and like the books that we read that have terrible dialogue. That's like one of my biggest
pet peeves.
Yes.
Same.
Because it's so, I don't want to say it's easy to make good dialogue, because clearly it's not.
I
but
mean,
you have to, I have to wonder if people who write, do you not think about your real world conversations and like how you talk?
This is like a total tangent, but like, I mean, we just talked about this. I just finished a book, and it was by an author who, in my opinion, is known for good dialogue writing. And in this book, she still can't get it right. And I guess I have to put like my, bias or like my snobbery aside and assume that maybe it is hard to write dialogue, because I have such a hard time believing that like 90% of authors just can't write good dialogue. And maybe it's like a combination of like you're reading it in your head, so like maybe they had a different delivery in mind when they were writing it, or like something. But it's also like sometimes I read books and like it could be something as simple as the word cool, and it's like cool. I'm like, I know I say that, but like not like that. Like, I don't know. It's like I can imagine it's hard to write dialogue, but also not that hard.
Yeah, I guess too, when you're reading something, it just feels different. Because I never thought about it that way. Like just reading a word like cool. Like I guess when you read it, you're imagining, you know, you have a whole character attached to it. So you kind of got an idea of how they are, what they sound like. So you read it how you think they would say it. And then it's like, yeah, it's cringy. Because look how you talk. But, you know.
Yeah.
But I guess with that, you have to have characters who aren't cringy in order to make something like that work.
Yeah.
But it's apparently really hard, especially for older people. No offense, you guys, but like.
It's very true. I think, because I mean, we're about to get into like our least favorite of the series, but something for me is like, I totally agree. I think it took her a little bit to find her footing and like get into the groove of doing this like flipped, you know, fan fiction-esque approach to Disney characters.
Yeah. I
think the first book, it was kind of rough. And the second book, I really enjoyed. And I think we saw different sides of this book where like it was getting good, but it was still kind of bad.
Which one was the second one?
Learn My Lesson. That's the Hades, Megara, or Meg, and
Megara.
Hercules one. But I think like that was the book that I was like, oh, she's finding her footing, because Hades is depicted as such a like baddie. He's depicted as such a silver fox baddie, which I love. But I think it just took her a minute to get into the groove and finally get good dialogue. But that only lasted a little bit. By the end of this series, it really just took a nosedive into madness. I'm sorry, but I think that's what happened. But
yeah,
yes.
I feel like also it can be hard to write sexual dialogue that isn't cringy.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where a lot of it's like I'm pushing through. I made a TikTok about this very thing, because like when you're reading a book, especially like a romance book that's like heavily like sexually motivated, and like every other scene is like someone fucking somebody else. You're reading it and then you're into it. You're envisioning the scene. You're reading the descriptions, the dialogue, and then the author will use a descriptor or use a word or a phrase, and you're like, why the fuck would you say that?
What possessed you to put that together?
And
those words
and
together.
You said it more than once, and I'm really I was okay. This is a side note, but it's the perfect example.
Okay.
I found this older, not older, but this spicy book from like a used bookstore. They were selling books for like $1, and that was one of the books I found, and it's called Wicked Hot.
Hell yeah. Okay.
And the book came out in like 2008, so it was around the time of like Twilight, I think, right? Because when was Twilight published? Like a little bit before 2008? I think
Twilight came out in like 2005.
No way.
Yeah, the first one came out in 2005.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, I'm thinking the movies. Never mind.
Oh, yeah, no, the movies, yeah. The movies came out in like 2008.
Yeah, okay, well, it was around... Oh, that's even worse. It was like, wow. But anyway, the book came out around 2008, I think, or that was like one of its first publications. But I'm reading this book and I'm like, okay, it's very direct. Like, it's about this succubus who like lures men and like basically steals their souls because they're like, you know, what's the word? Like, I don't remember exactly, but basically she gains her power and energy from like stealing the souls of men by like, you know, seducing them or whatever. So her boss, who I guess is like the devil or whatever, there's like a war between like demons and angels or something, like the Nephilim, if you're familiar with that concept of like Nephilim and like whatever. But her boss is like, hey, these Nephilim, they're killing my demons. You need to go do something about that. You need to go seduce them and get them out of my hair. So she goes and she has to seduce this Nephilim and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, they end up like two of them because they're brothers. There's two Nephilim brothers.
Okay.
And they end up like, the three of them like have their whole thing. And there was a part where they're engaging in coitus and they're trying anal for the first time.
Oh no. Goodbye. I'm leaving.
And the description, it wasn't even dialogue, it was the description. It was like first person description. And she used the term anal passage.
I'm head out.
I said, you know what? It's time for me to go to bed because if I have to read the words anal passage one more time,
it's time to put the book away, baby.
Jump off a bridge.
Just put that back.
Put the book down, baby. It's okay. Put the book away.
You know what? I think I've seen what I needed to see.
No more.
No more.
But it's things like that where you're like, okay, how many times can you couldn't have all of the things in the thesaurus.
This is what you came up with.
I would have rather have read the word asshole over and over and over again. But anal passage is crazy.
You know what? I think I was, and I was going to bring this up. I feel like this is where I personally can suspend like my judgment for poor writing because I really don't think there's a good word for any personal reproductive organs in any of these books. Anytime a euphemism, a descriptor, anything is said to describe another region, I have to giggle because they're just all bad. They're all ugly, bad words.
They are, but some are better than others.
Yes,
and I feel
the
like,
lesser of two evils.
And you guys always pick the worst. Worst ones. Like again, I would rather read like the less bad word or like the more like less cringy word.
Yeah,
I'll read that over and over if I have to, but I draw the line at anal passage because why?
I'm so sorry, sweetie.
Why would you say that? I had to literally. I physically clenched my toes and fingers because why would you say
full
that?
Body cringe.
My anal passage was clenched because why would you? Why would you say that?
You were no longer feeling the fantasy. Like you closed the book and it was done.
It took me out of it because I'm like, that was horrible to read. And you guys always do this. And
it was horrific.
I said in my videos, in the caption, it was like, you know what? I'm going to need middle-aged white women to just retire because you guys are like the main ones who are writing these books.
It's time to pack it up.
And you guys need to pack it up because clearly, not to say the writing is not good. It's there. The rest of the book was fairly fine,
right?
But the descriptions and the like, why?
Oh Lord, yeah. There's definitely some moments in these books where I had to question why. These books are all pretty short, so a good majority of them I read in a day. And there was a good couple parts while I was reading these that I had to do like a double take where I was like,
yeah,
did you say what I think you said? Like,
and also why?
And what possessed you to do that?
Why would you say what out of pocket?
What do you gain from this?
Wait, you know what? I feel like to me, it says a lot about the author's fantasy. I'm just gonna put it. That's my conspiracy theory. Look at the the majority of who writes these books, like I said, middle-aged white women. I get it. This is what you want. I get it. But also, keep it to yourself. But yeah, like, I feel like it says something to like how like these women think like a fantasy should be. I mean, I don't know anything about their lives.
Right.
I don't know if they're in loveless, romanceless relationships, or maybe they're in loving, really spicy relationship. Maybe their husbands are like on it.
Right, like maybe these come from personal experiences, or
maybe they don't, and you guys are like, this is how I wish would go down. But like either way, I'm just like horrified.
Yeah, so speaking of horrified, I feel like maybe it's time to get into our least favorite because to your point, I really am curious and, to be honest, worried at times for Katee Roberts' mental state, because while there are like, there's pretty, like, I would say, like, common kinks or like, you know, fantasies in these books, each one kind of focuses on a different one, I would say. Like, some are like the whole like chasing, consensual, like
kidnap type
thing.
of thing.
And then there's like a threesome and a couple of them. And then there's different things where it's like, okay, like that's pretty not standard, but like common. Okay, that's fine. So moving on to my least favorite, we're going to talk about the Sea Witch. The Sea Witch is the fifth, second to last one in the series, and it is the Little Mermaid one. It is another 3 polyamorous, I guess, relationship one where it's Ursula, the Little Mermaid, and Eric. So I need Katee Roberts to answer for her crimes because this book was fine. It was fine. It was a disappointment reading it because I had just read The Beast. So I was like, already, I'm like, it's hard to follow The Beast. The Beast is really good. Yeah. So I'm reading it and it was whatever. I was like halfway through it. I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, I'm trying to get this done. And then there's the mention of, Mom, if you're listening, please don't listen to this episode.
Yeah, please. Oh my God. Please don't listen. I've said Mom. Anal passage so many times. Please don't.
Mom, earmuffs. So there's a mention of a sex toy that is introduced.
Is it a tentacle?
That's a tentacle. And when I tell you, I didn't just like, I didn't do a double take. I wasn't taken out of it. I was just revolted.
Transported into the ether.
My body like just ascended to the heavens, and I was just like, I needed to go talk to God like straight away.
Hey God, it's me, and I just want to apologize.
I literally was so disgusted that I was like, I'm gonna let God fix it.
Because if I fix it, I'm going to jail.
It was the worst thing I've ever read. And then the worst thing too was, I mean, obviously it's like a romance book. These books are very sexually liberated. There's no kink shamed in these books. So obviously the characters aren't going to be like, what the fuck? They're like into it.
Somebody should have said something.
So all of y'all are weird. So every single one of y'all fucked up.
Weird.
Side eye.
Bombastic side eye. Because what do you gain from that?
What do you gain from this? And that was when I was like, you know what? Katee Roberts, you a freak. Not a freak in a good way, but like a freak. What the fuck is this?
I wish I had I don't remember what she looks like.
I think she's just kind of like average. She's just average. I think she has like pink hair or something too. So like, you know, she's a little like alt-ish, but like she's just average,
figures.
I think.
But that's just so funny.
Yeah.
First of all.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
she doesn't understand the girlies and she doesn't understand the vibes with that one.
Because I've heard horror story. Well, this woman that I follow on TikTok, she like does like topless maid services and like does all these like different services and things. And she talked about how she had to go to the doctor recently because she used like, I don't remember if it was a tentacle or like a dildo with spikes or something. Not like obviously not spikes, but like something like
something sharp.
Yeah, like things coming off of it.
Nope.
And it tore her on the inside a little bit. And I was like, why would anyone even make these for people? Like tentacles is one thing, because I feel like if you're gonna make something with tentacles, I assume it's got like a little bit of suction.
I think it's just like the shape, just the taboo of it.
Okay, I mean, you never know. Clearly
there's a lot we don't know.
Things with spikes, so who am I to say it's not suctioned? I don't know.
Who am I to judge?
I'm nobody to judge.
I will judge, but I shouldn't judge, but I will.
No shame in your game. That's fine. Do whatever makes you happy. But
I guess.
I guess.
You know what?
Take care of yourselves is all we ask, because y'all are getting out of hand.
Very quickly.
Tentacle dicks, all kinds. There's just too much.
We are just descending into madness very quickly as a society. Every day we stray further from God's light.
Katee Roberts, your day will come.
She's ushering us straight to hell.
And we will all have to answer for your crimes.
We're accomplices now.
We are accomplices because you know what? Because I'm going to read them all.
And I did read the next one after it.
And you know what? And I'll read the next ones too.
And I did read the Wicked Villain short collection of short stories after that too.
Damn. Okay. I did not.
Yes, I did.
I only read the ones that are in front of me. Barely. I read Neon Gods, which I don't even know if that really qualifies as being a part of.
It's a different series, but I think they're loosely connected, I think.
They are, because Hades is like the main player in that book.
So well, that's my least favorite one. I guess honorable.
Neon Gods?
No. Sea Witch. That's my least favorite one. And I guess honorable mention to Desperate Measures, which is the first one. It's the Jasmine and Jafar one. And I think that was disappointing only because of the princesses mentioned in these books. Jasmine's my favorite, of the ones she wrote about. So it was just disappointing. They kind of did her a little dirty, but that's all I can say for my least favorites. Let's get into your least favorite, because I think I can't really talk about the tentacle scenario, the tentacle fiasco anymore.
Let's move on.
The snafu, if you will. The snafu, if you will. I can't talk about it.
Let's not. In fact, let's just bottle it up and flick it away from our memories.
She's gone.
She's gone from our memory, never to be brought up again. But
nope.
My least favorite, and I kind of talked to you about this before, so I'm not going to make this part too long. Because I could really go on about it, but no, it was this one, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My least favorite was Learn My Lesson. And this one is about Megara, Hades, and Hercules. I'm pretty sure that's his name, because you know sometimes they like to try to change their names.
No, their names are all the same in this one.
Okay, I was just Hercules. So in this book, and listen, don't come for me, because I've already done my mental homework and I've already unpacked what I need to unpack about myself, as per our point earlier about unpacking internalized misogyny and all of that.
Yeah, we're nothing if not self-aware, okay?
Yeah, so I've already unpacked that, so I don't want to hear anything, whatever, okay?
Yeah, and I don't want to hear anything about my opinions either. Yeah. Just want to put that out there.
Yeah, these are just our opinions, and these are just our thought processes. But
that's my opinion.
in the book, Learn My Lesson, Meg is described as an older woman.
A MILF, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. Literally a MILF. And Hercules is described as like this young, fresh-faced little boy. He's just a boy.
Mm-hmm.
And Hades is Hades. Hades, well, like you said,
he's Silver Fox.
The Silver Fox baddie. He's just on top of everything and everyone.
Period.
You know, wish he was on top of it. Just saying.
Hey, very quickly too, I feel like we touched on it, but I just want to really stress that the underworld, the club that he owns, that is the neutral ground for all of the land, territory leaders. Yeah. It's a sex club, which we already said, but it's a sex club bar hotel type place where there are rooms. There's role-playing rooms. There's rooms that you can sleep in, and then there's rooms for different types of play, if you will. So I just want to really stress that fact, because I feel unless you've read these, you wouldn't understand, because the underworld just conveniently has, it's like the room of requirement. It just conveniently has all the things and places and rooms that you need. Yeah. But I just want to I wanted to put that out there very quickly before you continue talking about Learn My Lesson.
Yeah. Yes. And that's good that we preface that, because otherwise the descriptions and everything is just what?
Yeah.
But yes, in this book, and listen, I'm not gonna lie to you, I barely remember anything that happens in this book because I didn't really get through it. And here's why. Because
you didn't finish it?
I don't think I did.
Okay.
Because I just couldn't get past the dialogue and all these other aspects of the book that I was this is just not doing it for me, and like it's hard to get through. But you know what? I think I might reread it.
Okay.
And try to just finish it and get through it.
Okay.
And then
I highly recommend it because it's interesting because this is probably in the middle for me. I don't hate it and I don't love it, but I think it's good.
Okay.
It's probably number 3.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
And you're probably right. It probably is pretty good. And I would probably think it was good too if I could get past this.
Yes.
So
okay.
I was reading this book and I couldn't get past the fact that like I kept envisioning Meg as an old woman. And an old woman who's like fucking a really like the way that they describe Hercules, they make him sound like he's like some meek little 17-year-old or something. And it's just I couldn't get past the fact that they kept reiterating that like he's inexperienced and like he's new to the club and he's just like, I think he's just like a busboy or something, or he like,
yeah, I think he was like a bartender or something.
Like he was just like waiting tables or something. And they kept reiterating, or in my mind, like it felt like they kept describing that he was like inexperienced and like, you know, Meg was like, no, I don't, Hercules, I can't, like you're just a boy, you know, like that whole thing. And I was like, oh my God, ew, like why? And then I had to sit with myself and I had to ask myself, why do I have such a problem with this? You know, because on the flip side, and again, I know I've talked about this with you before, but on the flip side of that, all the other books are like just in general, in society, we're going to get a little deep in. I promise. I won't make it a long stretch. But I realize I don't have a problem with this in the reverse. It's not that I don't have a problem with it. It's just that I notice like when it's an older man who's like fiending after a younger woman, that younger woman, no matter how young or, you know, whatever her age is, it's usually much younger though. They always try to play up this young girl as being this hot, sexy, mature, like thing who's like, you know, she's experienced, but she's young and like she can handle a man like me, you know, like it's this whole concept of like this girl who goes with like this older guy. And it's always told that way in like this sexy, like, you know,
almost like she's in control,
but like not really, right? Like exactly that. Like, yeah, she's in control in parentheses. And it's always this like daddy-esque energy with like a young girl. And I'm like, ooh, like in my mind, I'm like, I kind of love that. But then I'm reading this and I'm like, why do I hate this so much? It's the same thing, but reversed, except that they're painting Hercules as like this bumbling, like, you know, like he's just so inexperienced. And the opposite effect, you have someone who could be the same age as Hercules, but they're painting the girl as like, you know, she's mature and she's got a man like wrapped around her finger, even though she's like.
And they do describe her as very, not masculine, but like powerful. Like she wears pantsuits. She's not, none of the other women in this book have that energy of like, she's a boss bitch, like not even joking. Like she's not like girl boss, like she's boss lady. Like
she's in charge.
She's in charge. Her and Hades are like level, like they're at the same level. They run shit equally and he respects her just as much as she respects him. So I
like,
get that.
Listen, I love that. I guess it was the lack of femininity that was eating at me, and also the lack of like, or not the lack of, but like that whole concept of like her being like, they just their opposing descriptions I couldn't get past. And again, I was like, maybe this is just me like being like, what's the word? I don't know, like society has led me to believe like this is gross, you know? And not gross, but like this is like, I'm like, like I'm not,
taboo or something.
I'm like, I'm not really interested in the whole like older woman, younger guy thing. But that's because the whole concept of like the younger girl, older guy thing has been so like hammered into our minds that like, ooh, this is sexy, but the reverse is not. Like an older woman, ew. You know what I mean?
Okay, that makes sense.
And I hate that like I had that thought and it kind of took me out of the story. I feel like I wouldn't have cared as much if it was like Meg and Hades who were like really the main the main event.
Right.
I feel like if it was that, I wouldn't have cared as much. But the fact that they painted Hercules as like this inexperienced like kid who just loves older women or whatever, I was like, like I don't really want to get into that.
That's interesting.
But yeah, I had to unpack that for myself and realize that like this is fine. This can be hot and sexy and beautiful just the same. And if maybe they had painted Hercules more as like that kind of strong personality type, rather than like, oh, like Meg being like, oh, he's inexperienced. Like, I don't want to deal with this little boy, you know? Maybe I would have felt differently, and maybe I will. I'm going to reread it. I'm going to give it another chance with my unpacked biases out of the picture and give the book a chance, because I feel like I totally believe you that it's good, because I feel like all the other aspects of it I was fine with. It was just hard getting past Meg being like this,
older gal.
Like older, like to your point, like she had like that kind of almost masculine energy of like, I'm in charge. Not that there's anything wrong with that at all. I don't think in fact, I love that. It's just the dynamic between her and Hercules that also was just like taking me out of it. So yes, that one was my least favorite.
Okay.
But
you know what? That's interesting, because like I feel like I've recognized something about not necessarily myself, but just like something I think about like age differences in general. Yeah. I was talking to someone, I forget who, but she was talking about how like she thinks it's really hot to like go to shows and try to hook up with members of the band. And she was like, and I feel like I'm so shamed for that. Like my friends think I'm like, like being taken advantage of, and that like they're worried for me. And she's like, why are you worried for me? Like, why would I not want to fuck someone in a band? Like, that's so stupid. And I was like, interesting. Okay. And she's like, yeah, like everyone always says like the power dynamic. She's like, yeah, that's fucking hot. Like they're famous. They're in a band. Like I like that. And I was like, you know what? That's interesting. Cause I've always thought that too, where I'm like, not necessarily like, Hugh Hefner and like 18-year-old girls. I'm not thinking about that. But like, it is totally perfectly natural and fine to, I don't know. I don't think that it's weird to be like significantly younger and date someone older. And like the power dynamic is kind of like a subconscious thing where like you're sitting here telling me that if your favorite musical artist or your like Leonardo DiCaprio comes up to you and they're like, I want to date you, you're going to be like, fuck yeah, dude, this power dynamic is the fucking turn on. So I feel like with this book, I already came with it from that perspective where I'm like, yeah, dude, Meg has her shit figured out. She's an older boss bitch. And this, I understand what you mean though. Like the inexperienced thing does kind of make it like hard to get into, but I was like, no, like who the fuck isn't attracted to someone that's like has their shit on point and is like, damn, okay.
That is exactly what. Yeah, that was my whole thing about the reverse of like, oh my god, I heard the perfect quote. Someone had said, younger women like older men for a completely different reason that older men like younger women. And when I heard that, I was like, absolutely. To your point and to mine, that dynamic of like having a man who has their shit together, is like in charge and like just has it, whether that be a band member or whoever, of course we're attracted to that. We want someone who has that. We want that sense of like security and masculinity and just like he's got it and I don't have to do shit. I love that. I would love a man in a band for the same reason. I love that. I think I might be into drummers. I don't know.
Drummers hit it harder.
Period. Yes. And so with that, I completely agree that, there is a dynamic that we inherently are drawn to, and it makes sense. And like, I don't shame anyone for that.
Right.
But the same should go for women. And that's what I was unpacking. I was like, you know what? Yeah, she's emitting the same energy. And I, for whatever subconscious reason, society, whatever, we're so used to not seeing women in that light, or it's being like, oh, you're just you're old, you just want to be in a man's shoes or whatever. You know, however society treats boss women, that's how it is, unfortunately.
Right. And it does take time when you're reading something like that like it takes a minute to get out of that, especially when like all of this is in your head. Reading is all in your head. So if there's already something in your head that you need to try to work through, then it's impossible to get through something.
Yeah.
Like it's impossible to get through a book.
And it was. And I think once I immediately unpacked that was it, I was like, okay, like maybe I was being biased and I should give this book another chance, because obviously like there are dynamics that for some people they don't work and some they do. And like I your friend or whoever she is, more power to her, because I'm not brave enough to be doing that. I wish.
And she is. Good for her.
So good for her, you know? But yeah, like with that, I feel like I'm glad that I kind of got over that hurdle. But to be fair, I hadn't touched the book since.
Right.
So I probably will try to go and reread it, because these books, they're so fun. And they're so like, it's very much like, what the fuck? But at the same time, they're enjoyable. I mean, is it like the best writing in the world?
No, absolutely not. But they're so like fun, and like we said earlier, it feels like you're like just giggling and like kicking your feet. And there's some parts where like, for going back to my favorite, there's parts in A Worthy Opponent that are just like a romance book. Like there's very like sweet parts of it, and like there's elements to these books that are actually very like sweet, and like you can really get into like the story of them, and like, you know, I think they are really fun. And especially like we said earlier, like when you really get out of your like, I only read serious literature and classics and whatever, like when you get past that and you just learn to enjoy these, they're very, very fun.
Yeah. And then you just start picking up other ones. Like I know you said you read A Court of Thorn and Roses.
Yes. I guess before we go, we can talk about what we're currently reading.
Yeah.
You bitches are right. Okay. Enough. I don't want to hear it anymore. A Court of Thorns and Roses was fucking good. I just finished it, and I'm about to start A Court of Mist and Fury, which is the second one. So I'm excited to read that. And that's what I'm currently reading. I just finished Cobble Hill, actually, in between books 1 and 2 of this series, and not great. Not great. But what are you currently reading?
I had been reading this book called, I think it was called People Like Her or something like that.
Okay.
It's very different from all the books that we just described.
Yeah. See, Court of Thorns and Roses, not too far. No, it's a little bit far off basis.
Yeah. I mean,
it's better.
Yeah, probably. And I can't wait to read those. I was reading People Like Her, and it was very much, I would say, in the vein of like the Gone Girl type of books.
Okay.
Very the ending, didn't know what was happening there, but it was a really good book. I forget the author's name because I suck, but it was very good.
Okay.
Highly recommend. Maybe if I can remember the name of the person who wrote it, we can put it in the description if anyone's interested. It's very, it has a very interesting take on the world of influencing. Influencers and like mom influencers, and like the dangers of like putting your children online. Mm-hmm. So it was very good. And then I'm about to start reading this book that's been on my shelf for a long time called The Plot. And I'm pretty sure it's about this guy who, like, I think he dies before he can finish his novel. So like somebody else has to come and finish it. Okay. I think it's something like that. But yeah, I have put a certain book on my to be read list. Maybe it's about a woman in a door. I don't know. But
it's for research purposes only.
I don't know, but I might
Well,
get
hey. You know what? I feel like after talking about all these, I'm kind of spoken for with what I'm going to be reading, because I want to finish the Court of whatever series. And I think I have like 2,000 pages between all the books left. Like these books are fucking bricks. So
Yeah, they're really big.
the third one's even bigger than that one.
Like, how do you write? Like, what do you even
How are
have
you
to
doing
say?
It's a
What
lot
could
of
you
world
possibly have to
building.
say?
It's a lot of world building, I guess. But I feel like after these, maybe I'll try to read Priest again. Maybe I'll give it another shot. Maybe I'll give it a go. But
I'm kind of into that. Maybe I'll read it.
Hey. Well, I guess that's it. I guess we really dived into some interesting things today, and I really hope to Jesus Christ that our parents did not listen to this episode.
I don't care. We are adults.
We're almost 30.
We are almost 30. Leave us be. We're trying to make memories in the form of
being scarred by literature.
I don't even know where I was going with that, but
just memories in general.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, like I think if you are currently on Book Talk or Spicy Book Talk in any capacity, read the Katee Roberts books. I know right now what's popular is everyone's talking about the Haunting Adelaide books, or
I haven't even heard of that.
It's going around those books. The Sinner or the whatever it's called. I don't even remember. I don't know why I can't remember the names of things today, but yeah, there's like the Haunting Adelaide book, which have mixed reviews. People saying it's like super, super good, and other people saying it's like the worst thing they ever read. So that's on my to be read list too when I can get my hands on it.
Yeah, I have a couple Spicy Book Talk books on my to be read list, but if you have suggestions, let us know, because I know there's like always some new ones or some that are recirculating or whatever. So let us know what your favorite ones are and which ones we should read, because Lord knows we will give them a chance.
We will no matter how taboo, we'll read them for at the very least for reviews
and for research.
So we can review and research, because
we have like no interest in them. Like we're literally just like researching them.
We're not like other girls. We don't read that type of stuff.
I'm like actually different, but
we're so different.
Whatever.
From everyone else. But yeah, that was our take on I guess spicy books in general, but more importantly to our girl Katee Roberts, who got us.
Shout out home girl.
Shout out to you, home girl. You have gotten us through. You have kicked in the door for us for spicy books.
Yep.
And we appreciate that.
I don't think there's any going back now. So
we're deep diving into
we're
it.
Here.
So thank you for listening. We don't want to make this too long. So we hope you enjoyed that. Let us know, like she said, what your favorite books are, spicy books, and let us know which ones you have read that you love. So
yeah, and let us know what you're reading right now, because I'm actually very curious. I feel like a lot of our followers, listeners, watchers are readers. So I'm curious. Let me know.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yes. And if you want to keep up with us or leave us any recommendations for anything that you want to hear, or things you want us to talk about, or things you want to ask us, you can follow our podcast Instagram at
I don't want to make this too long. Pod. I believe there's a pod at the end.
Yes.
You can follow our TikTok at 2.long.pod. Follow me at Revolting Youth, zeros for O's.
And you can follow me at KEI_ARAA.
And that will be it for us.
Yeah.
All right.
That was fun.
I hope you guys enjoyed. Okay.
Yay!
Yay!
Okay, bye.
Cool. Okay, bye.